8.3.3 We are to restore the ideal of oneness of God and humankind in love. Had God established the relationship of true love with human beings centering on a great true love, and thus built the family embodying the oneness of God and humankind in love, which God desired as His ideal at the time of creation. Today we would all go straight to the kingdom of heaven without having to worry about whether we were going to heaven or hell. The problem here is that unless God and human beings become one in true love, as subject and object partners, and make a start at the same one point, the true love of God and that of humankind will have different directions and purposes. Their love starts as two different forms of love. Then, it would be impossible to find the absolute world of the ideal desired by God and human beings. What is marriage? It is the perfection of the self. It is the perfection of a man and a woman, and at the same time, the perfection of everything on horizontal. Here are children and siblings, and because of this line comes in. Since they are brothers and sisters, husband and wife, and parents, the upper and lower, right and left, and front and back of the kingdom of heaven become one and form an ideal sphere. Then God comes into the center point of marriage. He comes to stay in the family and sets up house. As for all these forces, and as for all the forces of the sphere that enter this space, there are none that have not passed this standard. So to ask where God is, especially where God is in the husband and wife, what is the answer? It is in the womb. That is where He is. That is where the root of love is. Ever since the beginning of history, answers to questions such as how the spirit world is structured and what it is like were finally revealed through Reverend Moon. No one else has known this. The fall of Adam and Eve is the immoral sin that forsook God's ideal of true love. Adam and Eve, before the fall, needed to keep the commandment but fell at a stage of immaturity during the growth period. The union of the first love of the human ancestors, since being the perfection of God's love as well as the same time, should surely have been a continuation of happy fates in which God, Adam and Eve, and all things naturally became intoxicated in joy and blessings. It should have been a happy ceremony in which God's love, life, and lineage formed a beginning and settled in human beings. However, they instead covered their lower parts and hid behind the tree, trembling in fear. This is because they, in violation of the heavenly path, perpetrated the immoral relationship that gave rise to the source of false love, false life, and false lineage.
Satan entered where God should have Adam and Eve, and Satan married, didn't they? It is the same thing. Repeat. Satan entered where God should have Adam and Eve, and Satan married, didn't they? It is the same thing. If Adam and Eve had not fallen, God's true love and humankind's love would have united at one point. They were to start at one point. If it were 2 points, there would be two different worlds and two different directions. Yet, if they achieved the oneness of God and humankind and went in one direction, the individuals who appear in one direction would reach perfection. The family that appears in one direction would reach perfection, and also the tribe, people, nation, and world that appear in the one direction would reach perfection. They would become one in love. This would agree with the theory. What is the difference between the established Christian churches and the Unification Church? One difference is that the Unification Church restored the oneness of God and humankind, centering on love. Established theologies define God as holy and human beings as profane and sinful. Then, how can God's love and humankind's love become one? They cannot answer this question. The problem is that they think the absolute God can do anything. This was the main reason why Christians shed so much blood wherever they went. Misusing God's commandment, they invaded and seized. They produced dictators. The world, however, does not work like that. From the viewpoint of God's original nature, it cannot be like that.